So it's so important to develop good mental fortitude. And sometimes you have to just put on blinkers and only see what's in front of you. Pressure truly is a privilege, because if you are under pressure, that means you're doing something special. So being at a World Cup is special. Enduring that pressure, embracing that pressure, that is a skill just like any other, just like passing a ball, that the more you do it, the better you become at it. You have to also appreciate the vulnerability of being a human being, that you too have a heart. And so if I don't do well in rugby, that doesn't mean my self-worth is less or I'm not a good enough person. Understanding that rugby is what I do. Babalwa Latsha is who I am. We love to feel like we've earned it. And I think maybe that's what sets us apart. For me, it's about dominance, and making it clear that, hey, I'm going to dominate you the right way. It's an exclusive club that you're part of when you play in the front row.
Hi everybody, and welcome to another episode on the Coach G Show. Today I'm joined by the legendary Babalwa Latsha, Springbok Women's legend, pioneer and leader. And she has just recently returned as well from the UK, from Harlequins, back in South Africa. And we're going to be talking about everything that has been happening post-World Cup, but also some of the inside stories and the great experiences during the World Cup. Babalwa, welcome, and great to have you here at my former stomping ground here at Paul Boys High. How are things going?
Good, thank you. Thanks for having me. It's really special to be with you on the show again. Especially at your former stomping ground. It must be a special moment for you, but also a great privilege for me to be speaking to you today.
No, super. Look, so much has been happening. It's nice and hot here in South Africa at the moment, coming from the winter in France. I'm enjoying this. It's quite hot here, as you guys can see. I'm getting quite hot at the moment. But, Babalwa, wow, the World Cup was unbelievable. Lots has been happening, and I've been following a lot on social media. You have been very busy, super busy. So thanks for taking the time and joining me on today's podcast. What have you been up to since the World Cup?
Quite a lot, actually. Off of the back of that, things got quite hectic. But I think the most important thing first was for me to rest. So I got a good amount of rest, recalibrated a little bit, lots of interviews, lots of appearances, those types of things. And also just getting back into my own personal rhythm at home and finding time to do things that I actually enjoy outside of rugby and, finding a balance. But yeah, it comes with the territory. Lots of appearances, like I said, and just being busy, busy, of course.
So what would the normal rhythm look like at home?
Training. Training is always part of the rhythm. Catching up with friends and spending time with family, especially for me, because I've been living abroad for I've been back and forth for 4 years. And so, just to, find your feet again in the warm sun and with family and friends and, just sort of touch base again, with who you are at home and the things that I truly enjoy doing at home as well.
So you mentioned that you just needed to take some time and just kind of recover and recenter yourself. It's been ages since I've taken part in a World Cup. And I can tell you this, after the 2023 World Cup, I was mentally drained just watching. So I can just imagine, everything that was going on and how you felt. And tell me, if you can maybe describe, how did you feel after that World Cup? Not just from a physical or mental. Is there anything that can describe how, when you look back at it and say, okay, it was unbelievable? Take us, how did you feel post-World Cup?
Well, I've been to one Sevens World Cup and one 15s World Cup. So this in 2021, the 2025 World Cup was my third. And I felt that we've achieved so much throughout the 10-year period. And personally, it felt like a moment of triumph, looking back and be like, we've come a long way. We've been grafting and building women's rugby in South Africa for the longest time, and we are slowly starting to see or to enjoy the fruits of our labor all those years ago. But of course, there's so much more that still needs to be done. But when I look back, I'm like, gosh, we've actually done something special. But that's just the beginning. And so, post the World Cup for me, lots of proud moments, lots of moments where you get goosebumps by just thinking about it, to see the growth and where we've been in the previous World Cup and where we are now, how much improvement we've made. Even at home, people are finally starting to recognize women's rugby as an entity on its own, which is exciting for us. And I just felt that, gosh, what a time for women's sport. What a time for women's rugby, and to have, such a special group who understands the core values of what it is that we're doing, and just wanting to strive for more, and wanting to show young people, especially young girls, the possibilities out there. So in hindsight, I just feel such a great sense of pride, and also on the other hand, a bit of relief, because as you probably know, that the preparation for a World Cup is intense. Being at a World Cup in itself is intense. The noise, the preparation, the performance pressures, and all those kinds of things. So to come back from it, and just decompress a little bit, was also quite good. It's a good feeling.
No, I can only imagine, and I just want to say well done. I'm just getting goosebumps thinking about that when you guys got back home, and the reception you got was well deserved, and finally getting the recognition what US female rugby players have been, I'd say looking for, but not always getting. And it's great to see the platform. But most importantly, I was so impressed with the way you guys played, and the intensity, and that's the great thing about South Africa. And some of those girls move. You guys are solid, and just to see you accelerate, and I really enjoyed watching you guys play. But we're talking now about the build up. If you can maybe take us through those months leading up to the World Cup, what does proper preparation look like? Is there something in particular that your team focused on in the build-up to the World Cup? Take us a bit in terms of the preparation. I know before World Cup you're training hard, you're pushing your limits, but maybe give us a bit of a background, what you guys experienced into the build-up of that World Cup.
I think preparation for a major tournament like a World Cup is unlike any other preparation. I think it's quite unique to that process. And well, of course, we've done the obvious. We were in camp a lot. We played a lot of test matches. But I think the core thing for us as a group was to find that connection. And we've always had that connection, but it intensified so much more when we started preparing for the World Cup, even at the World Cup, because we understood that it's quite a unique journey. For some of us, we've been building up to it since the last World Cup, and so, of course, the grit, the incredible hard work, the hours of video sessions, and training and scrumming. Well, for me, of course, because I'm a front row, trying to perfect that particular craft, trying to improve the details of it, because at the World Cup it's all about fine margins, and so the detail of it as well was quite important in our preparation. And we were really blessed to have someone like Swayze de Bruin, who in my opinion is a rugby genius. He's very innovative and creative about elevating the way that we understood the game and how we played it as well. So in as much as it was a very physically intense process, it was also a mentally intense process as well, because we had to become serious students of the game, to learn as much as we could, and also be receptive to the creative aspect of it, because we popped up with a 15-man lineup this summer, and the next moment is a 2-man lineup. So all of those things, we had to sort of take in as much as possible.
Oh no, there's so much that I would like to get stuck into, but I think, with your preparation, you mentioned there that you became students of the game, and often on this podcast I talk about, I see a lot of professional rugby players, and even in top 14, they're not students of the game, they're not watching their training, and it's so important. So if you can maybe explain to our audience who are young girls, young boys that want to aspire to become really great rugby players, what does it actually mean becoming a student of the game? What did you and your teammates do that meant that you were becoming students of the game?
Yeah, I think the first thing is making the mental switch that you are never truly finished learning.
Okay.
You have to be open to learning. You have to be coachable as well, because how you receive information, how you internalize it, and how you engage with it is very important. And so for me, that's a very important aspect. Watching yourself as well. I think for me personally, my biggest critic is probably myself. Looking back at video clips and trying to see, how, what can I do better. Speaking to your coaches. Just sitting with them, just randomly grabbing them for like 5 minutes. It doesn't have to be a whole hour or anything like that. Be like, hey, coach, what do you think of this? Type of thing. Even with your teammates. My favorite, the front rows, we always sit together and be like, hey guys, let's have a look at this. What do you think of this? And just being open to receiving information, to interacting with others, and and keeping an open mind about different perspectives from different players and different positions and that type of thing.
That's brilliant. Quick question. When you say when all the front rows get together, you're having salads or having cake? Large joke.
I don't think my dad children will be happy about saying cake, but
Yeah, but you spoke there about Swayze the Brain. Obviously, I actually worked with him ages ago. He was part of the under-21 team back in the day when I was still playing. And, Swayze, he's always been, incredible in his way of thinking. And when I look at him, it's almost like you get this image of a mad scientist, that's creating something, is putting things together and things that it doesn't make sense. And then all of it comes, take us a bit. Obviously, he's someone that is innovative and is pushing you. But if you can maybe, because a lot of people don't talk a lot about him, and I feel he deserves so much credit, in terms of what he has achieved with you and your teammates. If you can maybe share some of the key things that you have learned from Coach Swayze.
I think apart from being an incredible coach, he's an incredible human being as well. And that makes things so much easier, because he's able to connect with you almost effortlessly. And just the deepening of the understanding of the game is out of this world. His dad jokes are top tier. That's my favorite thing about him.
Yeah.
He has the best dad jokes. And yeah, just having him in a room is something truly special. And the way he's able to convey the basic principles of the game in such a basic but very effective way is golden for me, because I think that simplicity is the ultimate sophistication, if you ask me.
Okay. And you talk about he's a great human being. I think that is so key. With a lot of the guests I've had on the podcast, we were coaching humans first. And I think, the way he is, I think that plays a massive part in the success that you and your team have. But on our previous podcast episode that you mentioned the pressures of privilege.
Yeah.
Now compared to a previous World Cup, which you were present, you had participated in before, how was this one different? And how did you deal with the pressure of this World Cup? Because I think there hasn't been anything like it. On the world stage, the audience, parents going to the game, young boys, men going to the game, excited to watch the rugby. How was this one different? And how did you manage the pressure?
Yeah, I think this particular one was out of this world. It was of epic proportions, because there are so many records that were broken at that World Cup from an attendance point of view, a viewership point of view, and the quality of the game itself, and the quality of the competition, and how well it was packaged for the general public, and the type of engagement that it received. I get goosebumps when I think about it. It's totally out of this world, and I think it's one that you want to put your shirt on the wall and try to savor it for as much as you can. But with that, with the noise, with the magnitude of the competition, with the pressures of performing, that in itself, in my opinion, it speaks to how well you prepare yourself mentally. It speaks to what your recovery processes are even. It speaks to how well you're able to block out the noise, because it can be very noisy, not only at the stadium, on social media, on people in the streets, what they say to you and things like that. So it's so important to develop good mental fortitude. And sometimes you have to just put on blinkers and only see what's in front of you. It's important to understand that you're also a human being. You also have feelings. Words do hurt from time to time. But you know what? Pressure truly is a privilege, because if you are under pressure, that means you're doing something special, in my opinion. So being at a World Cup is special. Enduring that pressure, embracing that pressure, and actually using it as energy, positive energy, is something truly special and a privilege to be in that position in the first place.
You spoke about you need to develop mental fortitude. That's an interesting topic, because I often use the word mental resilience, or you need to be mentally tough. How do you develop that mental fortitude? Where you block out that noise, whether it's on the field or, like you mentioned, social media, and sometimes you all know what happens. Sometimes you can get interviewed, your words get twisted and gets interpreted completely wrong. Your teammates read it. It's like, hey, what you doing, what you're saying. So how do you develop that mental? Is it through past experience, moments of adversity? Is there a specific process that you have come across that helps you to develop the mental fortitude or sustain it?
I think that is a skill just like any other, just like passing a ball, that the more you do it, the better you become at it. But also, I feel that in order for you to perfect that skill or get it right, I suppose, you have to also acknowledge that you're a human being, It doesn't mean, blocking out noise doesn't mean that you don't hear it.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean that you just this robot that is unfazed by anything. You have to also appreciate the vulnerability of being a human being, that you too have a heart. And so how you then are able to develop that skill, of course, over time, but also understanding that I'm a human being, I do have feelings, but also a sense of self-worth, a very deep sense of self-worth, to say that no matter who says what, it doesn't change who I am. I know who I am. I know what I am capable of. And, I've done this long enough to not allow, anyone who doesn't even do what I do to get into my head or even into my heart. So a good sense of self-worth, and sometimes separating yourself from what you do, because oftentimes athletes tend to lose themselves within the sport and within what they do. They almost intertwine that and make it and make it part of their personality and their character.
Yeah.
But understanding that rugby is what I do, Babalwa Latsha is who I am. And so if I don't do well in rugby, that doesn't mean my self-worth is less or I'm not a good enough person. No, those things, yes, they are aligned, but at some point there has to be a separation. And so I think it's a very individualized process, that you combine that with a good sense of self-worth, with time and actually practice, and getting things out of your system, but also with a deep understanding that sometimes it's okay if something does get you. You're only a human, but always understand where your self-worth is. Always understand that you will always be a good person regardless of how you do in your profession.
That's a brilliant point. You're talking about your self-worth, and sometimes we tend to be too harsh on ourselves, like you just mentioned. And I always say that rugby doesn't define your identity.
Sure.
And I think that's the biggest thing, because that when you put on that jersey, you become someone, you transform. It's like an armor you're putting on. But in terms of the self-worth, is there any tools that you use from time to time where you're just checking in with yourself? Just to say, you know what, this is not so bad, or actually I am good at what I'm doing, or I just need everything is getting too much, I need to take a step back. Is there any methods or tools that you use to do that, to just check in and kind of evaluate where you're at?
Yeah, quiet time for me, very important. Sometimes from someone looking in, it looks like you're isolating yourself, but it actually isn't that. You're just returning to yourself, and maybe being deep in thought a little bit, bordering on meditation. I have to be honest, I'm not a big meditator, but I do believe in spending time with myself and be like reflecting a little bit and be like, hey, actually, it's not as bad as it feels or as it seems. And sometimes muscle memory or brain memory, if you like, is also a factor, because once you know how something feels, mentally you're able to go back to that. You know what it's like to win in your mind. And so when you're by yourself, you can actually tap into those moments and just take deep breaths and be like, hey, I've done this before, you know. It's not as bad as it seems or as it feels. And also take good naps. Just sometimes just have a good meal and just take a nap. You'll wake up feeling so much better, I promise.
I can tell you, talking about meditation, like I didn't really meditate when I was playing. I meditate now today as a coach because just being on a different side of things, realizing being in high performance, the toll it takes on your mind and even the body. Being older now, I'm 44 years old, so now I've realized that I get tired quicker. And then as coaches, we spend a lot of time in front of the computer. And I started practicing, meditation for the last 2 years, different forms of it, whether it's yoga nidra, whether it's breath focus, whether it's body scanning. And I found it real valuable. And a lot of the players that I mentor, and they started to integrate things. And the beginning, say, "Oh, coach, we're here to dominate scrums. We're not here to breathe." And I said, "Guys, just give it a go. Just give it." So there's 2 tools that I've been sharing with them. Is meditation, 10 minutes of meditation a day, or in moments when you're feeling overwhelmed or anxious or tired. And it's been brilliant. The feedback I'm getting from players, in the beginning it felt weird, felt strange, but like, "Oh, coach, I'm feeling so much calmer. I'm feeling him in that blue state. I'm not in a red state." Or you're talking about those little naps. I tell players, go for those 20-minute naps. Just switch up. And I think that's important. And that's great that you have that awareness that you sometimes just need to have quiet time. Not being on social media and not just binge watching Netflix and all these type of things. You need time to reflect, which is important. But before we get deep dive into the World Cup, obviously each World Cup preparation has its own unique stories. We've seen with the Springboks back in the day in 2003 with the Kampstaldraad, with Joe van Niekerk that had to kill a chicken so he can have something to eat, and then the chicken was a bit traumatized and the meat was tough at the end of the day. And then I remember from us, before 2007 World Cup, we were in Durban and we had to do a 10K walk on the beach. Now, the 10K walk was probably the worst things for all the heavy guys because we just went deeper and deeper into the sand. And I just remember we just at the stage, we had all these different stops where we were speaking on different topics. We were in different groups. But there was this moment when we saw in the vast distance, this big stand, and we saw the smoke coming up, and we were looking, we were hungry. And then, you won't believe it, there was Nando's waiting for us. Nando's burgers, and it was like music was playing. It was like this light shining. That's one of the stories I'll never forget. Obviously, we trained hard. Is there any stories that you can share with us during your guys' preparation where there was something either tough or something really funny or something memorable in your preparation? Seeing that you're laughing, I think there's a few.
Nah, well, I guess everything is pretty much standard, from our point of view. But I must say, my favorite moments were when, the backs were asked to do what the forwards do. So we threw the backs into a mall, and for me it was pure comedy. I have to be honest. We had Libby Jans van Rensburg, our 10. At some point we lifted our scrum off in a line-out to actually catch a ball and pack a ball. Just their responses to that and their reactions to me were just totally hilarious. And I think they've actually found a new respect for forwards, that we're not just big powerful girls, eh? There's a lot of work that actually happens, and they too aren't just flashy fast backs. There's a great amount of work that happens, and I think we all developed a new respect for our positions and what we do and type of thing. So no really Kampstaldraad type of stories, but but just standard rugby stuff that I just found to be funny.
Okay. And let's focus now on the World Cup. So now obviously you and your team are very well prepared for this and you knew what was coming. At what moment at the World Cup did you feel, right, this is real, this is happening now?
The one that pops up in my mind was when we beat Italy to qualify for the quarterfinal. That was a really special moment for all of the girls, and you could see it, you could feel it. I think our team is one that that captured people's hearts because of where we come from and who we are, and the different stories within our group, stories of resilience, stories of overcoming, and what it actually meant and took for the girls to be in that position. And for a lot of us, it was a moment where we truly felt that we had done something special. Yes, we hadn't won a World Cup, but we had gone where no other Springbok women's team had gone before. And the realization of that was immense, because we understood the doors that it would open. We understood what it did back home for young girls who were aspiring to play for the Springbok women's jersey one day. It was important for us to convey that anything is possible. We wanted audiences to feel the Springbok women more than just be entertained by us. And I think we reached into something truly deep in that particular moment. And I remember Coach Swayze nearly hurt his shoulder when our forwards coach hugged him so hard, because the excitement and just the pure joy of breaking new ground and going where no one else had gone. Plus, we were celebrating our former captain's retirement as well. Cindy Boy, who was the longest serving Springbok women's captain in the history of Springbok women, and the most capped as well. So there was a lot to fight for us, and a lot to celebrate as well.
It's brilliant. Now, looking at what you achieved, beating Italy and Brazil, it was brilliant. And to qualify the quarterfinal, and also to see the amount of support the Springbok women's team had. It was unbelievable. You just now shared, I think I was going to ask you, what's one of your favorite moments? And I think you just said it there with Italy. But earlier when we spoke about, you mentioned that you need to have that ability to block out the noise. And we have seen there were a lot of things happening in the Women's World Cup. Is there anything that you can share where you felt, listen here, I need to block this out? Is there anything that was impacting your team during the World Cup where you as a team had to come and say, listen here, we're not going to listen to this nonsense? Or because it wasn't an easy World Cup for a lot of rugby players, and during that period that people were resorting to social media and people and players were being unfairly criticized. Is there anything that you can share with us where you guys as a team maybe experienced, where you had to stick to your guns and, like you mentioned, remember, you mind yourself of your self-worth and check in and just stick together as a team?
I think what we got right early on as a team, it was understanding what we stand for. And you know what, sometimes, in fact most of the time, not everything that happens around you warrants a reaction or response from you. And we understood that perfectly. We knew that there's going to be a lot of noise at the World Cup, just like any other World Cup. We know there are critics out there. We know there are people who may or may not believe in us. We know all of those things. But our goal was much bigger than that. And, our connection was far deeper than that. It was very difficult to penetrate from the outside in. Yeah. And so you could see it in the way that we went about our business. You could see it when we sing together, when we come out for warm-ups, when we come out to the stadium. You could feel the deep-rooted South African spirit within us. And that is of unity, understanding the bigger picture. And so because of that, it wasn't easy at all for any of those things to get to us. We know that social media will always be a thing. But again, like I said, not every thing warrants a reaction from us. And we were really super focused and super tight as a collective.
I think that's an important lesson as well, because unfortunately we live today in a life where where I spoke to parents now where kids are being bullied and not just physically but also on social media. You're seeing cyberbullying and stuff, and that's tough, and sometimes kids also react and people react, and you don't always have to always start. I very recently spoke to my son and I said, listen, if you react to someone that is kind of like trying to lure you in, you're giving them power, if I can put it that way. And sometimes not replying as well and just staying focused on what you need to do is important as well. But what intrigues me, because I always, like, even when it comes to scrums, I'm always intrigued what's holding a player back or what makes a player tick. But what fascinates me is that you and your teammates, the Springbok women team, were completely transformed in the sense of the way you were playing. You could see the confidence in the players as well, and it was really exciting to watch. Was there a specific theme for this World Cup or a type of a vision? You mentioned you guys had certain goals. What were your goals? And what would you say was the big thing that helped you and your teammates push the needle during the World Cup?
Yeah, of course we had goals going into
Yeah.
into the World Cup. We wanted to do our best. Number one, we wanted to display a great brand of South African women's rugby. We wanted to inspire the next generation of young rugby players, and we also wanted to reach a quarterfinal.
Okay, so it was a goal, yeah.
It was a goal. Yeah, honestly, it was a goal. And to have reached that, of course, in itself was quite special. But just the whole process of it, was something truly special. And it's difficult to put into words unless you had actually experienced it. And I think the best part is that we were allowed to play to our strengths. We were allowed to express ourselves. We were given the permission to be true to ourselves and be who we are. For instance, you look at someone like Aseza Hele, who ran like a raging bull on the field, which was amazing to see because that is who she is as a player. That's her strong point. There's me who loves to carry, who loves to scrum, who loves set pieces. I was allowed to do just that. Your Nadine Roses who just love to run through defenders and all of that. So we were encouraged to play to our strengths, and I think that is so important because you mentioned what makes a player tick, what your X factor is. Now imagine you have 15 X factors on that field, and you give them permission to do just that. You give them the permission to be themselves, of course, within structure and what have you, and the technicalities of the game. But I think that was the game changer for us, because it gave us confidence as well. And you knew that your teammates back you no matter what happens because they know that's who you are. They understand what value each and every player brings to the team, and how best we can then, put all of that in the melting pot and do something truly, truly special.
Sorry that I'm laughing, but I was just watching the highlights again of the quarterfinal and you're talking about innovation. I mean, first that lineup, like, where did that come from? And then doing a maul of a scrum. I mean, that's entertaining. I'm not going to lie to you. People want to see like offloads and stuff like that, but where did that come from? Who was the boss? Was it Coach Swayze? Was it the Flyers? Let's start with the lineup. Who orchestrated that?
Yeah, no, that was the pure genius of Coach Swayze.
Okay.
He's very innovative. He's very creative, and I think that actually helped us to do something quite memorable at the World Cup. Because who in their right mind could have ever imagined that you would set up a maul straight out of a scrum? No one has done that before. No one has even thought of that before. Going from a 2-man lineout to a 15-man lineout. It can only be the genius of Coach Swayze, and what made it so much fun for us is that we instantly bought into it, because we knew that in order for us to achieve something that we've never achieved before or go where we've never gone before, we had to do things that we've never done before. To an ordinary person, it sounds absurd, but to us, we were like, you know what, let's do it. And one thing about us, we're a team. If we back something as a team, we'll 100% throw all our strengths into it. And so we just back Coach. Like when he proposed the idea, we were like, we in, let's do it.
But then again, it comes down to trust, which is important. To have trust between a coach and a player, that's key. I remember also back in the day with Heineke Meyer, the Bulls, he would come up with these things and we would just back him, and we even ran 4 bleep tests at the stage. I was telling the story quite a bit recently, so it's a crazy thing. But I just want to close off on the World Cup. So is there anything that you take back from anything key lessons that you've learned from that World Cup experience that you will always cherish? Not a memory, but a lesson. Is there something that you learned during that period that you now know maybe what you're capable of, or something that can help you carry on in the future?
Yeah, I think, gosh, it's such a good question. I think what I learned from that World Cup is not to limit myself. sometimes we think that we can only go to a certain point and that's it. If anything, that World Cup taught me that there is no limit. There is no limit to my capabilities individually now as a rugby player. There is no limit to how I'm able to connect with whoever's watching and the people that I interact with. Because physically, I went to pretty dark places at the World Cup. And that in itself taught me that, you know what, actually, there are no limits. Who would have thought that we would be breaking barriers like that, 10 years ago, it was nowhere. Because the limit now, there are no limits. Like that's the main thing that I'm trying to get across, is that don't limit yourself. In life, in sport, anywhere. Never say, this is the ceiling, this is what I'm on, this is only what I'm capable of, I can't go any further. You definitely can. The glass ceiling is there to be shattered. And I feel that is what that World Cup did. That is what that World Cup taught me, that to always, be hungry for more, to aspire for more, because there's so much more out there for us.
And I was thinking, and I know there's a lot of people who have been having this discussion, you're known as the Springbok Women's team. Have you ever thought about that your team deserves its own name? Have you ever thought about that? Has that discussion ever come up amongst? Because I think it's like the Springboks, yes, that's what they achieve. And it's always, it feels like for me, like the Springbok Women's team, with everything that you have achieved, doesn't do you justice. But that's just my feeling. So has that ever come to mind? Have you ever thought about that? Has been a discussion amongst you and your teammates?
Well, perhaps not amongst the teammates, but there's been some ideas being thrown around.
Can you share
some wanted to call us the Bokkies, some wanted to call us the Blomboks, something of that nature. And my view is this. We have the Springbok men and the Springbok women. Together, we form the Springboks.
Yes, I like.
And so I feel for us, that speaks to our identity.
Okay.
The Springbok men and Springbok women are both Springboks. Collectively, we are Springboks. So if we must differentiate on gender, the Springbok men or the Springbok men, the Springbok women or the Springbok women, together, we form the Springboks. It's as simple as that. That's how I see it. I think we just need to add men next to the Springbok men's team.
You're giving me goosebumps. Look here. And now it comes to our favorite topic. And before we get to our favorite topic, and I just want to say, you called it before the World Cup. You said at times, men's rugby can be boring. And women, you're looking for excitement, you want to entertain. You certainly entertain. So well done on that.
Thank you.
All right. And now it comes, they're talking about the Springbok. Now we talk about the Springbok Scrum. And we saw the Springbok Scrum against the Blackfoots. Right. That was brilliant. So, and we touched a bit of base on that on the previous podcast. But what would you say? You're talking like you love the set piece. Your team loves the set piece. That's your strength, playing towards your strength. But why is the set piece so good? Why are you walking over everybody? I mean, it's ridiculous. Or going forward in the scrum, having a maul after the scrum, going forward, and it's ridiculous. So that intrigues me. Is that maybe linked into our DNA in terms of that's what we stand for? Or is there a specific way the scrum is being coached or trained that led to that type of behavior?
Well, I think it's a combination of those things. I think the set pieces are our strong point across the men and women's game. And it speaks to the South African brand of rugby. It speaks to, our spirit as South Africans. It speaks to how much of a fight we're willing to put up, what we're willing to fight for. Because let's be honest, scrummaging is not an easy thing to do, but we love that. Because that's who we are. And, the love for that combined with good coaching and, allows us to be able to have, good set pieces. Our coach, Lauren Johannes, was very, very, diligent around the set piece and how well of a machine we needed to make it. And that really sort of helped us in the same breath also, being creative about it as well, because I can tell you now, it's not easy for a tight head prop to straight out of the scrum, get your head out of a scrum, immediately put it into a maul. That's not an easy thing to do. So the good coaching around that, but also, loving what you do as well, and understanding that this is our identity. It's who we are. We don't need to move away from that. We can definitely use it as a use it as a tool, and we just love doing that.
I just thought of something, and I hope Coach Swayze is listening. So this is what I'm thinking. You got a scrum in the middle, all right? You got a scrum in the middle. The tight head needs to break out as quickly as possible. So you're going to go to the left, play to the left, and I can see you finding yourself on the wing and having the 10 give a cross kick pass over. That would be the ultimate try. Imagine that. You go forward in the scrum in the middle, you play it up towards the left, and Babalwa Latsha is angling on the right side, waiting for that would be the ultimate.
Please don't give Coach Swayze an idea, because knowing him, he would actually try that. But yeah, I think, gosh, deep down inside of me, I have this desire to kick to poles one day. Just once. Or even kick like a 50-22, just once in my, you know? I mean, there are no limits, like I said earlier. No limits. So you never know. You might see me breaking over scrum and, you know, running to the wing and scoring.
So just maybe give us an idea during the week, you know, still on the topic of scrums. So the set piece is dominant. The coach does his due diligence. There's that part where it's our DNA, you know, it's what we stand for. And we all strive to, because of what we see, what the Springbok Scrum stands for today, whether it's the men's or the women's. It's brilliant, it's unbelievable. What does the week look? How much time do you spend on the scrums? Is it mostly sled work? Is it lives? Do you guys do a lot of individual skills, a lot of analysis? Can you maybe take us through a typical week where you're like preparing now for a big performance in the scrum, where you guys are putting a lot of emphasis? Maybe take the audience through that in terms of what does that look like?
Yeah, our unit sessions are quite important. So Monday, Tuesdays are your 2 hardest days in the week, which includes live scrummaging. It includes machine work. It also includes, you know, mini units where we scrum 3 with front row versus front row and those kinds of things. And then you get a rest day, of course, on Wednesday. And then Thursday would be like almost like a captain's run type of a thing. You rest completely on Friday and you go play on Saturday. So in the unit session, of course, we'll focus on our line out work, on more setups and scrums as well. But sometimes late in the afternoon as well, while we're camping in Stellenbosch, when everyone is just knackered, you know, we've had a serious session throughout the day, and then we'll manage to find some extra time to do some scrum work in the afternoon where it's scorching hot in Stellenbosch. You know, we've had a cracker of a day, and we still go do our extra, because it's always that 1%, you know, that you're trying to chase extra. But yeah, scrumming, big part of who we are and what we do, and a little bit of individual analysis as well. That's my personal favorite thing. I love watching scrums, and I'm seeing how I can sort of, you know, get the upper hand or maneuver type of a thing, because gosh, playing tight head is quite technical. So I try my best to be on top of things and all of that. But yeah, a typical week would involve, you know, unit session, which would include scrummaging and more as well.
So, you know, I talk a lot about this on social media in terms of what is your take on the so-called dark arts of the scrum. I just call it playing cheating. The cheat codes. I saw the game this week. I just watched I rewatched the French Island game, and I was just appalled. You know, you can see tight heads deliberately cranking. In this case, you could see the Irish tight head. He had no intention of actually getting across the line post engage. He's having a clear hinge. He's cranking. That gets my blood boiling, because I mean, we want to see a full-on fight, the air scrum. And I find that in men's rugby, with so much cheating going on, whether it's a loose head pushing down or whether it's walking around. I had a great chat with BJ Botha here as well, and we spoke about that, you know. Sometimes players are looking for penalties in the scrum and they're going about the wrong way. And what I teach players is that, you know, dominance is a result of your efforts, but you got to earn, it's got to be a badge of honor. You can't be proud of yourself and get a pat on your back if you blatantly cheat. No? So do you have similar experience in the women's game, in the scrum, where that is the case? I didn't pick up much in the quarterfinal in the World Cup. I felt it was a fair contest. The guys destroyed the Black Ferns. What is your take on that?
Well, if I must compare with the men, I find that you know, in our game, the women's game, for us it's a big sense of pride. There are no cheap shots or easy takes or that type of thing. We love to feel like we've earned it. And I think maybe that's what sets us apart, perhaps. And, we especially the Springbok Women's Scrum, we tend to, do our best to abide by the law and do things the right way, because that's just who we are. And, we want to earn that dominance. We want to earn the penalty. We want to earn the title, if you want to call it that, of you are scrummaging team, with the best scrummager in the competition. It's a great sense of pride, and sometimes it just speaks to your character, man. It's just about who you are. And if you're a forthright person who strives to do the right thing, it'll show in the way you play and in the way you scrum. I think the values of the game are important as well. The respect and the honor of it, and of course the sports, the good sportsmanship as well. I mean, and the fairness. Personally, I don't. For me, it's a pride thing. I wouldn't, be too happy with myself if I got a penalty by cheating. I won't sleep well at night knowing that. For me, it's about dominance. And making it clear that, hey, I'm going to dominate you the right way. I'm going to show you who must be on this field. You know what I mean? And yeah, like I say, it's like a badge of honor. And I like to call it the front row guild. It's like something. It's an exclusive club that you're part of when you play in the front row.
I remember I told the story this weekend, and I went out to Katu this weekend. Can you believe it? In Northern Cape, when I received that call that they wanted me to come on, I was like, what am I going to do there? But listen, well, unbelievable place, great people, and I'll talk a bit more about that on another podcast. But I told them the story about the top 14 final in 2012. Played for Toulouse. We played against Toulon. And I'm not going to mention the prop's name, but there was this prop that I played against, and he was just mouthing off. And I said, listen, yeah, be careful. You just focus on your scrummaging. And he was going on chirping. And I remember that second scrum came and I destroyed him. He was lying on the ground because we went over him, and I just said, hey, if you want to hang out with the big dogs, you don't piss like a puppy. That's the most important thing.
Love that.
Okay, Babalwa, I want to talk, you're back in South Africa. Everybody's trying to get to the UK and playing in the English league, and you decided to come back. Why? Because I can imagine might have been better for you to stay there, maybe from a rugby point of view. What was the main drivers for you coming back to South Africa?
Yeah, of course, the PWR is the best league in the world at the moment, and to play there is great for your rugby. It's great for player development. It's great for you overall. But remember, I've been doing this for 4 years now, and I've been going back and forth for 4 years. I've given the best of me to my club and to the competition itself. And I felt that, it was time to come home for me, because I'm not getting any younger. Secondly, I'm missing out on quite a lot of things from a family, point of view. You miss home, you miss graduations, you miss this, that, and the other. And I just felt that it's the right time for me to be here in South Africa for a little bit, to see how best I can plow back into our domestic league, into our game, wherever I go in the country. But I think what motivated my return more than anything was more from a personal perspective. It was more from a family and a perspective where I was needed more than anything else. And so both fortunately and unfortunately, there are certain responsibilities that I carry and that I must honor from time to time. And so that is what informed my decision. I had a fantastic time. I loved playing for the Harlequins. In fact, you always say once a queen, always a queen. I'll always be a Harlequin. I have a deep love for the club. But there's nothing final in that. It's just me being home for a little while. It doesn't mean that I won't go anywhere else again. I won't go play overseas again. But you know what? I'm just enjoying being at home right now. I'm enjoying being with my family. I'm enjoying the South African sun in 4 years. So yeah, there's lots in store for us. We've got a whole series of test matches to look forward to. The Pick and Pay Super League is taking off on the 14th of February on Valentine's Day, which is nice, which is special. So there's lots to be excited for here at home as well. Playing overseas will always be there. It's always an opportunity that I can always go back to. But like I say, I'm enjoying being at home right now.
Oh, I can definitely relate. I've been back now. I've been now for almost 2 weeks now, and it's just been so great. I'm so firstly just want to say thanks to Paul Boisai for welcoming me as well and allowing me to use the facilities to host the podcast. But also I've been training in the gym, Paul Boisai, and and it's so awesome to see school kids at 7 in the morning playing rugby, playing football. That it's just brilliant, and I can totally relate it. Look, I love France. It's my second home. I speak fluently French. I love the French culture. The identity of my kids is French, and even though they still have that strong identity of South Africa, but I can understand that. But just being here, seeing and just I bumped into a former teammate today, Conrad Barnard. He played with me with the Cheetahs. And it's so, and you kind of miss that, bumping into, family and friends. And, it also got me really, unfortunately, as I arrived last week, I had to attend a funeral of a cousin of mine, unfortunately passed away. And no, thanks. And, it just made me realize there's some family members I haven't seen in over a decade. So I can definitely relate. But I think one of the biggest reasons that you came back is because you're driven by something bigger. I think you want to help take the Springbok brand in the women's game to another level. So that comes down to my next question. We know what you are capable as a rugby player. What's next for Babalwa? What is your vision look like? What are the main projects that you have in place outside of the game of rugby? That you are, because you're using your brand now, which is brilliant. You have to do that. So what are you focusing on at the moment outside of rugby?
Yeah, well, I'm very passionate about social justice and advocacy. Those are things that are really close to my heart. I just can't sit still when I see something wrong in our communities, especially if it affects young girls. I'm just like, I need to do something about that. And so outside of rugby, how I try my best to give back to my communities. I try my best to be a positive point of reference and to make some type of an impact in a young person's life is, with the various foundations that I work with. I'm one of the directors at the Menstruation Foundation, which speaks to a deep passion of mine because it speaks to period poverty, which is a global problem. And it's a problem that is faced by a lot of young girls in South Africa. And I feel that there's so much more we can do. And I'm really proud of the work that the foundation has done and is able to achieve. Also, I'm a Laureus Ambassador, which is, a fantastic global organization that uses sport as a tool to elevate and to empower young people all over the world. I've worked with my good friend Tendai Tawarira as well with his organization and, offering scholarships and using or marrying sports and education, which I think are absolutely key in elevating and empowering young people so that they too can reach their dreams and they can conquer the world, they can change their lives and perhaps even that of their family. And it's truly about developing the next generation of young leaders, and to be able to lend my voice to those things and myself and my time and my image to me is something that I'm deeply passionate about, and that I'm truly privileged to be able to contribute towards. On the other end, we are still sitting with our LLB degree, which is collecting dust at the moment, which hopefully soon, actually, rather than later, will come into good use, because the game is evolving and it's becoming much more professional now. With professionalization comes contracts, and guess who must negotiate those things? You need lawyers for that. So hint, hint. So yeah, it's something that I would like to do in the future, maybe even post my playing days.
Yeah, it's interesting talking about LLB. I never finished my LLB degree, and recently I got offered a scholarship to complete it. So, but I'm like, I have no intention of going back into law. It's tough, yeah, but it's been great. I caught up with the owners of Stadio, the online university. So I'm also thinking about doing something different, even though I have a business degree, but I did it to Toulouse Business School is great. But I think what I'm trying to get is, maybe it's not clear. Maybe you are still exploring, because I think there are so many opportunities that have come your way where you can really do good in the community and inspire, and just the way you speak, it's so inspirational. It's so good. I love listening to you. Like sometimes I just turn on the previous pod, or if I see you on another podcast, I always tune in. It's brilliant, and I believe that more men, more male rugby players should be doing that, using their platform for something good. And you spoke about the Menstruation Foundation, and I was shocked on the last podcast where you told me that the basic needs is not accessible to young girls and to young women in the townships and in certain communities, and there's so many other things which you get for free, which is ridiculous. And I believe that is something that needs to be addressed. But if I have to put you now at the spot right now, who would you be in 5 years' time?
Oh my goodness, that is such a good question. Who would I be in 5 years' time? Definitely still Babalwa Latsha, that I can tell you.
But in a suit, power suit, like beast. He's got the glasses going, he's got the tie going.
Yeah. But of course, hopefully being in a position where, or let me put it this way, hopefully be in a decision-making position where I'm able to make a positive impact within our game, but in a capacity that is elevated, in a much more authoritative capacity, in a capacity that has gravitas, that is able to shift perception, that's able to, shift the game in itself. Something like a boardroom, if you like, but where we are able to make decisions for our own game, because I feel that women in leadership in sports is critical. I love seeing women teams and organizations being led by women for the benefit of the women's game. I just love seeing those kinds of things. And an example that comes to mind is someone like Lynn Cantwell, who's came into our system and just saw it just flourish, and she was at the helm of that. Now she's in Ireland doing the exact same thing. So I love seeing women in those types of positions, and hopefully in the next 5 years I would like to find myself in that position where we're able to make decisions for the development and further elevated growth of our game.
So now that brings me back, because I wanted to close. I know you need to get back to Cape Town as well, so I'm mindful of that. What do you think, if we have to look at the World Cup campaign was very successful. So now it's about what's the next step? What do you believe the Springbok women's team need right now to step it up to now? Because I saw that quarter-final, and I think it was up till about the 43rd or 45th minute, I could be mistaken. Guys were going well. What would you say were the big things that the women's rugby in South Africa is still lacking? Because if we look at the match against the French team as well, where it's different, what is the big difference at the moment that I will say holding Springbok women's rugby back, and what needs to be done now to help it? Because you can see there's some unbelievable talent, and the future looks bright for Springbok women's rugby.
Yeah, the talent is one thing that we're not short of in our country. I think there's incredible amounts of talent, and to see over, I think women's rugby in South Africa is just about 22, 23 years old. And so in those 2 decades, a lot of it involved, developing pathways for, the junior setups, getting rugby in schools first, getting girls to play the sport in itself. And so it grew from that and it elevated from that. And, over the years, the growth has been fantastic, of course, but I think in order for us to have that edge and, to be able to do it like we did in a quarterfinal and what have you, sometimes it takes us playing more to be able to develop that. And that's what brings me to this season and how exciting this season is, because we're going to do just that. We have a whole lot of quality test matches lined up. We're playing the Black Ferns. Again, the USA are coming to us to play them. And we want to test ourselves against those teams so that we can actually know at the 43rd or 45th minute, what that is about and what it takes for us to take it up to 80 minutes. And that involves playing the game. I think the uniqueness of rugby is that you can't truly simulate a real test match. You have to be in there. You have to earn your stripes. You have to do it over an extended period of time, and that is what gives you, the edge. It gives you the staying power. It gives you the finishing power as well. And I think that the exciting bit is that we're continuing to elevate, we're continuing to grow, because in the past 10 years sponsors were nowhere. Now we have the likes of FNB, your Pick and Pays are finally getting on board, and I think that's the push that we need. And I think off of the back of this previous World Cup, there's so much more I think we can achieve with the support of South Africans all over the world, and the increasing development and the increasing support from sponsorships as well.
This has been unbelievable, and I'm super excited to see what's going to be happening, especially with those upcoming test matches, the men's and the women's. I need to make sure I'm back in South Africa. If I don't have a coaching job yet, by the way, I'm definitely going to be. I need to be. I can't miss out on there. We spoke about a lot of highlights. We spoke a lot of great things. Is there anything that has happened in the last year or so where something was really tough and was a really challenging time, where you felt, I just need to, you spoke a lot about your self-worth and blocking out the noise. Is there anything that you can share where there was a clear moment of adversity which you thought, this is going to be hard? If you can maybe share that with us and how you overcame that.
You know what? This is actually as recent as yesterday. It's been happening like for the longest time. A year ago, it was present. The funny thing is, I actually get bullied a lot on social media, believe it or not.
Wow.
By bullying, I mean, random people that I don't even know, would be commenting all sorts of things on my profile and the posts that I make and things like that. And so the push for me has been towards body positivity, has been towards, embracing who you are and how you look, and understanding that what your body does for you, that is what's important, not so much what it looks like. And the funny thing is, I still get those comments on my social media. I still get people commenting on the way that I look, on my physique, on the way that I carry myself, and those types of things. So in as much as I've developed systems and processes to not allow those kinds of things to get to me, but if I must be honest with you and perhaps even vulnerable, as recent as yesterday, there was a whole lot of comments on my running shoes that I posted. Something as simple as running shoes. People commenting about the way my legs looked, about how heavy I am. Even they took it even as far as commenting on my BMI. I mean, like, who does that? So it got me thinking that, a young person may not have the ability to just shut that out. That could be the difference between it being the last straw. That could be the difference between a young person actually losing their self-worth and confidence altogether, or even, committing suicide even. And it might affect their mental health forever. That's how serious it is. And I have to be honest with you, I found myself last night, thinking to myself, gosh, like, I've been playing rugby for 10 years. I've been an athlete, a professional athlete for 8 of those 10 years. And I've worked extremely hard at my craft, extremely hard at developing my physique to be able to withstand what I do and the physical demands of it. And I've worked exceptionally hard, yet there are still people who just don't see that, and who see fit to comment on the way that I look. I have to be honest with you, that was a little bit tough for me last night. But then again, I recalibrated. This morning, I took myself back to myself and said, hey, what people say has got nothing to do with me. It felt like adversity in that moment when I actually had a look at those things. But one thing about me, I always overcome those types of things. Of course, over the years, there have been several adversities. Where I come from is not an easy place to come from. That in itself was adversity. But my intrinsic spirit is that of overcoming. So yeah, this morning I was like, you know what? My self-worth is too strong for this. I am too strong for this. I'm too deeply rooted in understanding who I am to be bothered by it. So I was like, spute, mute, ignore type of a thing. So since you've asked, that is like the most recent type of adversity, if you like, that I've experienced. And I can't really share that with anyone because I don't want to spread that negativity, but also not responding and just sitting and seeing these things and not standing up for yourself is tough too, because I do have a response for these people, but you respect who you are, you respect what you've built, you respect your personal brand, and you also respect that you're a national asset, you play for the national team, you have to keep a level of respect. And so just folding my arms and not saying anything in itself super tough. But yeah, to answer your question, I mean, adversity comes in different forms and shapes, and once you reach a certain levels, it evolves. It's no longer, you know, like a physical thing. It becomes now a more mental thing, a more emotional thing, and regulating that and knowing when to shut those things out is really important for me.
Well, firstly, sorry that you have to go through that, because you're looking at your posts. It's just inspirational. You know, sometimes you actually do make me feel bad, because when I look at the intensity you train it, I'm like, I only did zone 2 training this week, and I did a weight session. I haven't really hit it that hard, and I feel bad, but that's what I love. You know what? Don't stop. And I ask myself, sometimes I get crazy comments. And then I thank them for their comments. I said, thank you. Your opinion matters. Thanks for contributing conversation. And it's going to happen. That's the thing. When people like us are putting ourselves out there and you're speaking our truth and we're trying to inspire, we're going to get people that will try and kind of, how can I say it, you know, poke the bear, but and try and bring us down. And I think that's important. We need to be very conscious and very mindful the way we come across in the world. And you know, was brilliant. You know, I was fortunate. I was recently now this weekend in Katu. I went to this amazing church service, and there was this pastor, and he was going on, and they're like, listen, stop your nonsense. You know, whether you're white, black, colored, Indian, doesn't matter. Stop your nonsense. So, you know, God spreads his blessings over everybody, and I think that's important. You know, that's something. And I also had to have not a hard chat. It was this young prop I was working, and he's overweight, but wow, he was asking questions the whole time. I had the Scrum Dominator workshop in Katu, and he was asking questions the whole time. Every time I would give him a pointer, he would fix it, he would correct it. And then I felt as I went afterwards, you know what? Can I ask you something? Has anybody told you must lose weight? He says, yes. His head was like, you don't lose weight. You become obsessed with becoming a better rugby player. Yeah. You become obsessed by training hard, chasing your goals. Don't let losing weight become a goal. Don't. And I'll be honest, when I was younger, I used to be bullied. You know, the names kids used to call me. Kids can be mean. And I think that's a completely different discussion that we're going on. But I train, I love sometimes, even back in the day when it was about more than a year ago, one of my former colleagues, he was mocking me. I was training at 6 a.m. in the morning, and he mocked me and said, oh, but you're training so hard that we don't see the difference.
Oh, man.
So I'm like, it's like, look at you, don't even look like, and he had a laugh and he walked away, and I was pissed off about it. And I was like, and he said, you know what? I'm getting in the trenches every single morning because I'm taking care of my own mental well-being. I'm not doing it for aesthetics. You are training because you still have certain goals that you want to achieve, and that's the main thing. You are inspiring and motivating people. And I always have, like, I've done a lot of investment over here. And like it's never going to become hard. I'm not going to have abs. These abs are all
fantastic, by the way. I must say, for retired rugby players, you look fantastic.
We can go on and on. I want to say thanks for everything that you are doing for our country at the moment, for the young women and the young men out there, because women's rugby has impacted everybody worldwide. And I'm just so grateful to see that parents are taking young kids, boys and girls, to these rugby games. And even a dad gave me feedback. See, he loves going to women's rugby games because it's exciting and you don't have to deal with all the other shit, with people that are completely wasted and drunk, and it's a really great thing. But anyway, I'm going to stop there because I've just gotten back from a trip. I flew at 8 this morning. I got in a car at 5 a.m. driving from Katu to Uppington at 3.5 hours of sleep. So I need to get home. I'm actually looking forward to having a good cooked meal by my mom.
Rest.
Yeah, I'm going to get some rest and have some chill time with the family. Babalwa, all of the best. I'm looking forward to all the test matches lying ahead. Keep on doing what you're doing. And please, if I can leave you the words of Cobra Kai, no mercy.
I remember that. Thank you so much for having me. It's been nothing but a privilege to be having this wonderful conversation with you.
Thank you
so much.
Thank you. And for those of you that are watching this show, the Coach G Show, thanks for all your amazing support. But I have realized that a lot of you are following and giving unbelievable feedback, but you're not subscribed to this. So please subscribe to my show, Coach G, whether it's on Spotify, YouTube, or Apple Podcasts, so we can continue to have unbelievable guests like Babalwa. Thank you, guys. Ciao. Thank you.